Next up, we have our spotlight presentation from Kevin Eunice, our Chief Operating Officer, on the exciting project that Hope just referred to, that the governor announced last week. And Kevin is becoming our chips czar for ESD. And so, Kev, the floor is yours.
I would prefer to be your potato chip czar, which is really my thing. Thank you. I'll reintroduce myself, Kevin Eunice, COO with ESD. So we're here to talk about something the governor announced on the 11th, as Hope noted. It's called the High NA EUV Lithography R&D Center. And High NA is numerical aperture, EUV is extreme ultraviolet light lithography. It's a mouthful, but it's a really cool project and it's a really exciting opportunity for New York. So I want to just tell you a little bit about what this is and why it's important, and happy to answer any questions at any time. But it's a fun project. As Hope said, announced by the governor on the 11th, joined by Senators Schumer and Gillibrand, but also, let me go back. Where am I? There we go, sorry. Joined by Senator Gillibrand and Senator Schumer, but also leaders of some of the most important semiconductor companies in the world, including IBM, ASML, Micron. And so, really exciting moment. It was an announcement of a center in Albany called the Albany Nanotech Center. So $10 billion investment, $1 billion from the state and $9 billion from private sector partners. And this technology, this tool, will power the next generation of semiconductor manufacturing. And I think we've talked a lot about Albany Nanotech, but Albany Nanotech is currently North America's largest publicly owned semiconductor R&D center, and this investment just sort of takes it to another level. And really, as Hope noted, it cements New York State and Albany Nanotech and New York Creates as the global hub of semiconductor innovation and a candidate for substantial federal investment to the National Semiconductor Technology Center. So, first, what is High NA EUV lithography? So, High NA EUV lithography, it's arguably the world's most complex and advanced equipment ever designed and manufactured. It's about the size of a city bus. It's a massive tool, which is quite ironic in the sense that this massive bus-sized tool produces the smallest images in the history. They just unbelievably small nanoscale features on wafers. You see wafers here. Why is that important? So semiconductors, it's this esoteric thing. What is a semiconductor? Why is it important? Well, semiconductors power everything. Our phones, our computers, our cars, our hair dryers, you name it. It's ubiquitous. And so smaller and smaller chips means more and more capacity to do things with more chips. So your phone, Governor Hochul talked about it, your phone is roughly 100,000 times more computing power than put a man on the moon, and 8 million times more memory than put a man on the moon. Your phone contains more computing power than existed on the planet 70 years ago. Your phone. And that's because that's enabled through smaller and smaller, more efficient, faster chips. This tool is the next iteration of even smaller chips. So as we think about AI, as we think about the need for greater and greater use of chips, this tool enables that. It is the critical path item for all advanced manufacturing by all semiconductor companies in the world. Tiny lasers is so 50 drops of tin are hit by 2 lasers a second, and it produces a wavelength of light that allows for these features to be made on the wafers. It's a tiny wavelength of light that allows for this. I'm sure I'm butchering this, and my smart friends at New York Creates and everywhere else are cringing at the moment. But it allows, that technology allows smaller and smaller chips. So Why is it important? As I said, semiconductors are ubiquitous. They are the single most important product in our world economy today. There's nothing that we use electronically that isn't dependent upon semiconductors. This tool is made by one company in the world called ASML, located in the Netherlands, and it's critical to U.S. and economic and national security. When we talk about the CHIPS Act, the Federal CHIPS Act, it was done because of supply chain disruptions around COVID. It was done because of the risk of so much of semiconductor production today in Taiwan and the geopolitical realities around the island of Taiwan. And so this tool is that critical path to semiconductor manufacturing going forward. And New York will have this technology before most other countries. It will be the only tool in a publicly owned, the only tool in a publicly owned open use facility in North America. So $500 million-ish for the tool, and there's tools that come with it as well, and $500 million for the clean room that's necessary to accommodate both the tool and the ancillary tools and investments. So this tool, as I said, is the size of a school bus. Current clean room construction in the world it's just a different standard. So entirely new heights have to be built for this tool. So we'll build 50,000 square feet of clean room and purchase this tool with state resources, and private sector partners will invest $9 billion. So that's over a 10-year period, and that's really important, the 10-year period, those commitments. So as we think about sustainability, longevity, you make an investment like this to bring long-term partners to the research and development ecosystem. And so these long-term commitments will matter to New York State, but also matter when the federal government is thinking about how it awards the NSTC dollars. And so when you see $10 billion, I'm quite confident this tool is so important to this industry. That's just the beginning of the investments that this partnership will bring.
So the feds invested money at the Micron, facility out of the National CHIPS Act.
Yep.
And so far, this is all state and private, and we're hoping that it will also attract monies from the feds as well.
Correct. Yeah. I'll get more into it a little bit later, Kevin, but yeah, absolutely. And I think more from the private sector. Again, this is the only place in North America where you can access this tool. And the CHIPS Act is to drive advanced manufacturing of semiconductors in the U.S. And so if you are a company like Intel, if you're a company like TSMC manufacturing in the U.S., you're a company like Micron, this is a place where you can come and work with your partners in an open space. So as I said, 50,000 square feet of clean room space, and just a minor note about this, the last bullet, designed to support federal criteria and a bunch of acronyms. NSTC, you'll know, these others are National Advanced Packaging Manufacturing Partnership. DoD has a Microelectronics Commons. The point of this is we're constructing 50,000 square feet, which the partners that we've already listed are committed to utilizing. But when the NST comes and says, hey, we need 10,000 square feet quickly, our partners know that we need to pivot and adjust for those opportunities. So that this new space allows us to, first and foremost, we have the partners, but it positions us to be able to quickly pivot to meet the demands of the federal government in this space. So New York Creates. New York Creates is, I think if you said, what is one thing that Empire State Development does really well? And I'd say, creation of acronyms. We're really, really good at that. So New York Creates, the New York Center for Research, Economic Advancement, Technology, Engineering, and Science. And I want to give a shout out to my friend and our former president and CEO, Howard Zemsky, who came up with that. 2019, ESD and SUNY formed New York Creates. It's a not-for-profit that runs and operates Albany Nanotech. I want to give a shout out to Dave Anderson, who's the president, Paul Kelly, COO, and all the great folks over there who, they're the smart ones that know what this all means and help us take advantage of this moment. But today, it is a world-leading R&D innovation hub and commercialization facilitator, and represents more than $15 billion in historic investments. That's both public and private, mainly private, frankly, but the public investment has really facilitated and leveraged the significant private sector partners. So again, this opportunity is built with partnering with industry leaders. So IBM, Micron, Applied Materials, Tokyo Electron, ASML, preeminent companies in the semiconductor ecosystem. Micron will be a new partner to this ecosystem, and that's great. I will say to you that this campus, the Albany Nanotech campus, is one of the reasons Micron selected New York for their manufacturing, for the 9,000 jobs they're going to do in Central New York, very closely tied to this opportunity. So we'll significantly expand our R&D partnerships. We'll double the employment, we'll double the employment of current partners. There's 2,000 researchers on campus today. These partners associated with this project will double theirs by adding another 700 jobs. So a couple of important things. You're building in New York. You got to, what's so important in this industry? I think if you went to any semiconductor conference, if you met with any semiconductor leader, you would hear those two terms over and over and over again: sustainability, workforce development. Ironically, or interestingly, you talk to Hope Knight or Governor Hochul, you'll hear those two terms all the time too, right? So sustainability. First of all, we'll build this fab, we'll build this clean room space, and in a way that will absolutely follow sustainability standards. LEED Gold. We'll certainly work to make sure it's built in the most economically, environmentally friendly way as possible. But more importantly, I think, is sustainability will be integrated as a primary goal of the R&D. So these are companies who will be making the chips that will power everything on our planet. And the more efficient they are, the less power they use. That's incredibly important in terms of meeting our sustainability goals. Workforce development. All of our partners, we have to finalize all contracts, but all of the MOUs, which are the framework for those agreements, all contain obligations for commitments to STEM, to workforce development, to hiring engineering grad students. So these things, which have been part of the governor's DNA, are part of this industry's DNA as well. This is really cool. So historically, our campus was, the campus at Albany Nanotech was a number of really important partners, but generally U.S. partners. So this opportunity brings in companies from research institutions from Belgium, France, Korea, Germany, Japan, Canada, all coming as part of this partnership. Again, this tool is so important to U.S. national security and, frankly, the national security of our allies, that all of these partners will be with us in working on this tool. So, Kevin, to this NSTC discussion. So the NSTC has, the CHIPS Act was $52 billion, of which around 39-ish was for folks like Micron and other companies for their manufacturing operations. But 11 of that was for federal investments in R&D, including the creation of the National Semiconductor Technology Center. So last week, when the governor announced this and Senator Schumer joined, from his lips to God's ears, he said Albany will be the home of the National Semiconductor Technology Center. This investment puts us, we were very strong in our bid for that. There isn't another institution in the U.S. like Albany Nanotech, but with this investment, there's no one who will have the capacity to deliver in this moment for the U.S. R&D path on semiconductors. It's just a fact. I'm not being biased. I'm not it's not hyperbolic, it's the reality. There's nobody else that is in this space in the way we are and will be.
What will the center be? Is that another new building? And what's
So-
the purpose of the center?
The center is to lead semiconductor research, to next generation semiconductor research for the U.S. So the U.S. we have lost the manufacturing. So over the course of the last 40 years, we used to produce about 40-50% of the chips in the world. Now we're down to about 10%. So part of what the CHIPS Act was to bring that manufacturing back to the U.S., but it was also to make sure we maintain our preeminence and dominance in the R&D space. And so this National Semiconductor Technology Center is an investment in furthering that. And I will say to you, Kevin, the NOFO, the request for the funding opportunity, that's the federal RFP language, it's not out yet. So we don't know exactly how they're going to do it, but certainly whether the center is in Albany or it's in Washington, D.C., if there's a hub and spoke, the reality is the federal government wants to quickly move that advanced research. There's no place they can do it immediately and as quickly as here in Albany. And this will further, now it's going to be a couple of years before this tool is up and running because that's how long it takes. But if they said tomorrow, we're going to drop we need to move folks for this center in Albany, we could accommodate them from a research space, clean room space, we could accommodate them from an office space. There is the infrastructure there to do that immediately. I want to close with just a couple. I thanked, of course, our friends at New York Creates, but Hope Knight, who's just been amazing and supportive and a leader here, the governor who continues to really invest in this space and recognize the opportunity that exists for New York, and particularly upstate New York. I have a few colleagues, Steve Golick in Buffalo, who will present this item to you, the formal. So coming to you next, in a moment. So $1 billion for state funding. Steve Golick will present a $478 million ask for the building. So we need to immediately continue with construction of this building to accommodate when the tool shows up. So Steve will present that item to you. But Steve has been involved in this portfolio as long as I have. He's been a great partner. Kristen DeVoe in our press shop. Brad Willows, who started recently, but has just been a great addition. I think that does all my things. But again, amazing team. We always are, I'm pulling in the legal folks. I'm pulling in the finance. We're all just constantly pitching in and doing what's necessary. So without everybody's help and the teamwork and the great partners here, we would never get something this cool done. But I'm happy to answer questions. It's kind of a mind-blowing opportunity for us, I think.
It really is. Well done, and thanks for acknowledging all the members of the team. Mike?
I'm curious, if this is the state-of-the-art technology moving forward in semiconductors, where is left or are left the non-participants on the private sector side? Where is Intel? What are they going to do? What is AMD and the like? Are they basically forced to come here?
No.
Or is there
no,
a barrier to
no.
entry from some other state or from some other country building a facility like this to rival this one?
One, there's only a handful of these tools in production, so you have to be in line to get one. That takes time. Companies like Intel, TSMC, Micron, they will buy these tools themselves for their production, absolutely. TSMC and Intel they actually are part owners in ASML. They hold significant stock in ASML, so they'll get some of these tools. Nobody has to come here. Those TSMC more than likely will conduct so much of its research on their own tool in their own space. But for those who are looking to come in a public space, if you're looking to invest as a government, you can't do R&D that only one company. If you're going to spend federal dollars on R&D, it can't just be for the benefit of one company. And so this will be a space where multiple companies can come together and do the research. So lots of folks will get these tools, but this will be one of only probably a couple places in the world where you can do, R&D and partners with other folks.
No, Kev, it's mind blowing. It's really cool. I was at the Nanotech Center about 10 years ago. I think President Obama was there, if you were there. What happens to all the other semiconductor things that were happening at the nanotech? Are they sort of now obsolete, or like, are we heading to this new technology? And like, we all have whatever version the iPhone is today, 15, 16, but is the old semiconductor stuff that was at nanotech, are they like now iPhone 1s and 2s?
So it's actually, I had an opportunity to go to ASML back last month, and I asked that, so IBM and others were producing 2 nanometer chips, that's incredibly small, using the current technology, EUV technology. So there's currently EUV technology, lithography, at the Albany Nanotech today. And I said, if we're producing 2 nanometer, why do we need this new chip? Why do we need this new machine with so much money? And the reason is this new machine, one, can take it beyond 2 nanometers, but it produces the chip in a way, but it's much more predictable and a much higher quality. So you can't just have, you can produce a 2 nanometer chip, but can you produce tens of thousands and millions of those? So this new machine brings in the ability to predictably and stably produce these really, really, really small chips. But the old machine still has importance in that research and is still used, it's used today. Yes, ultimately the tools will reach the end of their useful.
Right.
But today, the EUV machine that's been there since 2009, 2008 is still in use, regular use and in demand. And so, yes, they go out but for the most part, this particular type tool will continue to be in demand for a long time. It won't even be in production until 27.
Got it. Very cool. So, the other, it's sort of interesting. The other big industry the governor has been really pushing and is taking off, especially in my neck of the woods, is offshore wind.
Yeah.
And it's the opposite. When I was first in the energy business, offshore wind, the turbines were 1.5 megawatts, and you needed many turbines. Now, they're up to 13 megawatts per turbine, and they keep on getting bigger and bigger. And these chips keep on getting smaller and smaller. Interesting, both cutting edge technologies.
But these chips, these incredibly efficient chips, are critical to the power that's produced by those turbines. Right? Where does it go? How is it stored? How is it used? That's all. They're all tied very closely together. You have this sort of esoteric, shooting lasers at droplets of tin to produce wavelengths of light to make chips. It's why does it matter? Well, it matters, one, obviously we all use the technology, but Micron in particular, if you look at their term sheet, which is on our website, and word search EUV, you'll find they intend to use this tool. So their production in New York, which will employ tens of thousands of people, this tool is part of their path for success.
Cool.
So it has very real implications about real jobs for real people.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's cool.
Very good. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Kevin? All right.